on the Mercedes-Benz Vans phone line from our friends at NBC, and also Football Morning in America. His column is always must read every single Monday. Joining us here on the program is Peter King. How you doing, PK?
Hey, everything's going good, Rich. How about you?
We're hanging in there. We are hanging in there. So there is a lot going on in the NFL, as always, but particularly this week with some news with the NFL spring meeting. The members are gathering for a spring meeting, and I'll hit you on a couple of those subjects in a moment. But one of the reasons why we picked up the phone is because we read your power rankings here in late May, and that's always a conversation starter. So let's have that start us off right here. I guess nothing's won in May except the Peter King power rankings in a way, but I'll give you the floor on why you ranked the top teams in the NFL the way that you did, Peter.
Well, I don't think there'd be any surprise about Buffalo at number one. I think they're clearly right now today the odds-on favorite if anybody was going to do power rankings to be the best team in football. What I try to do, Rich, every year when I do this exercise is I try to say, look, it never, ever, ever happens that teams finish the next year the exact same way they finished the previous year. So most of the reaction is, oh, my God, how can you have the Chargers number two? And I say, well, it's the same as a couple of years ago when I had the Bucks in the top 10, or the year the 49ers went from 6-10 to the Super Bowl when I had them number 7. And it's, you try. Now, look, I'm wrong a lot more than I'm right, but you just try to pick out teams that you see going in the right direction. And with the Chargers, for instance, I see an offense that I think is going to score as much as anybody in football this year. And I see a defense that added Khalil Mack to play opposite of Bosa, that added J.C. Jackson to give them the best corner in the free agent market. And I see a generous run defense that got stockpiled with a couple of big bodies to help them stop the run. So I look at all that, and I just say, I really like the Chargers. And most of the rest of the top 10 is fairly predictable. You'd probably have some raised eyebrows at the Eagles being number 9 and being the best team in the East. But, the Eagles are the NFC's version of what the Chargers are in the AFC. They won the offseason. And a lot of times that can have sort of a denigrating mark on a team. Like, Washington used to win the offseason every year when they signed Deion Sanders and Bruce Smith, and when they would win all the off-season awards every year, and they never played great. But I think what the Eagles have done, particularly with A.J. Brown, is a little bit different.
Well, let's just there's a couple. You gave us a lot of food for thought right there, but let's start with the Chargers, because you have the Chiefs number 3 on your list, your power rankings, and I'll be straight up with you, man. I'm with you on not putting the Broncos top 5. I think a lot of people feel that just add Russ in a spot where he's going to be allowed to cook, which is something I know that makes Pete Carroll irate whenever he heard the Russ, let him cook thing. I don't know if it's as simple as just add Russ and then all of a sudden the Broncos are a Super Bowl contender in 2022. But I'm wondering where you find the Raiders. I think the Raiders are almost as improved positionally as the Chargers. I understand J.C. Jackson was a huge free agent signing, and Khalil Mack is great to have across Bosa. To put Chandler Jones next to Max Crosby and then add Devontae Adams for a quarterback who he doesn't already have to go, on some sort of Bahamas mission to get on the same page with, I think that's pretty darn significant for the Raiders.
I think the Raiders could be really good too. I think one of the problems in trying to forecast the best division maybe ever in the NFL, and I mean that because if the Denver Broncos, as I project, finish last in the division, I mean, they could be the best fourth place team ever, in an NFL division. And same thing with the Raiders. I could see the Raiders winning 13 games. The problem when you start to try to say this team is great, that team is great, well, they also, and that was my biggest problem with putting the Chargers number 2, with taking a team from that division and moving them way up there, because they've got 6 games against, and they could lose any of those 6 or a multiple of those 6. So it gets to be really, really hard. You can't have all 4 teams being in the top 10 or being absolutely great, because the record is just not going to show that. And I doubt that all 4 of them are going to make the playoffs, which would be really tough to do. But I agree with you. I think the Raiders have done an awful lot of good things, 2 great things. And I think they are significantly improved.
And then, the Chiefs sitting there at 3, the one thing I just need to see, and I don't doubt that it's possible. It is, you could even say probable, certainly with the fact that Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy and Patrick Mahomes are all in the same meeting room, and then Mahomes is the one who's executing it. I do need to see what this offense looks like without Tyreek Hill. Now, I had Brett Veach on the show just about 10 days ago, Peter, and he walked us through exactly why Tyreek Hill was sent to Miami and about planning and about the years to come. And he also said it might not be such a bad thing that their offense needs to be changed up in a way, because we saw it falter at times in last year that we were not used to seeing. But as we just walk through how difficult this AFC West is going to be for the Chiefs to have, they had 2 major advantages. It's Mahomes to Kelsey and Mahomes to Hill. You could even say those are the best connections at those quarterback and tight end and receiver positions in the NFL. They coughed one of them up. And I need to see what that looks like, Peter.
I agree. I don't know what it looks like. I guess the reason that I have them so high is that, in Mahomes we trust. And that's the way I feel about it. Plus, it's not like the cupboard's empty, especially with Juju Smith-Schuster and Valdez-Scantling. And look, the one guy who I kept hearing about from the Daniel Jeremiahs of the world before this draft were, Sky Moore has a chance to be really, really good. So, it's not like the cupboard is bare in Kansas City. But, I would worry, too, about the leadership of Tyrann Mathieu being missing as well on the back end of that defense. So there's a lot of question marks that they have. But, again, I put them third because of my faith in Mahomes.
Peter King here on the Rich Eisen Show. And then last one for you on this is when you take a look at your top 5 that we're putting up on the screen, you've got the Rams over the Packers here as the best teams going in. I would rank that the same way as well, Peter. But where do you have the Bucs, and why didn't you have the Bucs cracking this with their 12 coming back, Peter?
I mean, look, I think that those 3 atop the NFC could be in any order. The reason that I put them in this order right now is that, look, Green Bay has shown 2 years in a row who they are. And I'm not consigning them to missing on the Super Bowl again. I'm really not. They have the best chance probably to win home field in the NFC. But what good has that done them the last 2 years? And so I wasn't going to put Green Bay one, especially without Devontae Adams. And I think the reason that I like the Rams the most is that even though I don't like the loss of Von Miller, I don't like the loss of Andrew Whitworth, and, there's other losses. I think what Cooper Kupp and Aaron Donald did in the biggest game of their lives just told me so much about who they are and who that team is. One thing I think about Tampa Bay is that, look, I think it's all well and good for everybody to automatically think that Tom Brady is just going to be who he always has been. And I think there's a good chance he will be. But I At some point, he can't continue to be transcendent. And I don't know when that is. And I'm not saying he's going to take a huge step down, anything like that. But number one, is Gronk playing? Number two, when is Chris Godwin playing? And so I think I don't know that Chris Godwin's going to be there at the start of the season. That is a guy who in his last two starts with Tampa had 25 targets or 25 catches from Brady. So to me, I've just got some questions about the Bucs.
Yeah, I'm although I kind of dig the Russell Gage signing. I like
Russell Gage, no question.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be, but those are definitely the class. I agree. Coming in as we're sitting here going on the cusp of June, Peter King here on the Rich Eisen Show. Okay, so the membership, as the 32 owners of the NFL are called, meeting at the spring meeting, and is Dan Snyder in danger of losing his franchise, Peter, for real?
Well, look, I trust Jared Bell. He wrote a story in USA Today that said, quoted one owner is saying that they're counting votes they get, especially if Daniel Snyder is found in some ways responsible and or guilty in this current sexual harassment investigation that he is undergoing by the NFL. I think Jared Bell wrote a really interesting story that basically said it's always something with this guy. And I also think that overall people are seeing a once proud franchise in Washington being taken to the dumpster every year, with more and more stories, negative stories and negative stuff about their team. And so I just look at it, Rich, I don't know what's going to happen. I truly don't know what's going to happen. But I do know that there's a lot of dissatisfaction over a once proud, once flagship franchise in the NFL, really having been torn asunder the last 25 years.
I mean, we had Alex Smith on the show a couple months ago, and, I asked him about his tenure there, and he said it was distracted. It definitely crept into the locker room, everything going on in the front office. He said, how could it not, was his answer on that front. I'd never heard that one before, Yeah,
and I think that you can say that, hey, we just go out there and play. I wonder this year how much of the junk is Vegas into Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler trying to build a team with a really, they've got as much talent on that team as they've had with the Raiders in a long time. So, we'll see about that. But I understand why Alex Smith would say that, and he certainly is a trustworthy voice in that regard.
And another story that's on the plate for everyone today is the fact that Deebo Samuel is not at OTAs for the 49ers. And my 2 cents is just everyone needs to take a breath that, now that we're through the draft and he's still on the team, they're just going to generationally enrich him at some point, I'd imagine. And for him to turn it down would mean he'd have to sit at home. And I guess if he was all settled, we might have to put the 49ers even further up on your power rankings. There's the Trey Lance scenario, but he's going to be the starter too. What's your 2 cents on what's happening there in San Francisco, Peter?
Think you just said it a minute ago. I think that John Lynch is basically trying to let some time pass and for everybody to just sit back and relax and if there are tempers, let those tempers cool. If there's some dissatisfaction, give it a time to simmer a little bit and then have a conversation and say to Deebo Samuel, listen, we absolutely unequivocally don't want to trade you. We want to make you one of the highest paid players in the game. We need to do that within the framework of keeping a great team together. And look, that means, in my opinion, if you do a contract with Deebo Samuel, you can guarantee him a lot and you can do everything, but it can't be a lot in this year. Rich, I think as of today, if I had to guess today, they're going to probably have to hang on to Jimmy Garoppolo, not only because nobody out there is offering to trade much for him, but also Garoppolo. Do they really know what they have Trey Lance? So that's one of the reasons why, in my opinion, I would trust John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan to know how to best structure this thing with Deebo Samuel, but unless he is absolutely adamant that he will never play a game for the 49ers, I just let this thing go, let everything rest. If he didn't come to minicamp, don't worry, who cares? Just wait until August 1st. If it's still a problem August 1st, then we're going to have a more serious conversation.
I think that's a good date to peg. In the 2 minutes I have left for you, I'm gonna push back a little bit on the Lance thing. I personally, I think the Niners have already moved on from Jimmy G. The fact that he's still there is only because of the shoulder rehab and everything like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so tough for people to just wrap their mind around that. The Niners moving all the way up to number 3 last year, they were going to have to go to this kid at some point. I mean, Jimmy G's not Aaron Rodgers, where they're forced to, abandon their Jordan Love plan. Like, this is going to happen. I mean, the draft capital's been spent. The kid is, he's got to go.
But you can say it's going to happen, and you and I both think that Trey Lance is going to start opening day. The question is, what if after the first month of the season you're 1-4 and Trey Lance is playing like crap? Do you just say, well, okay, we're going to take our medicine, blah, 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 blah? No, you say, this is one of the reasons why we have to think seriously about keeping Jimmy Garoppolo, because we're not sure about Trey Lance, and we're not willing to throw a season away. That's how I look at it, and that's the way I'd handle it if I were them.
Peter, thanks for the time. Greatly appreciate it. You're the man. Look for my call as always. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks a lot, Rich. Take care.
That's Peter King right here on the Rich Eisen Show. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.